Hello, this is John Hall from right here in Shrewsbury, bringing a video to you for the first time for some months actually, and it's nice to be back in business. We've got super new technology. We've got a Logitech 902C or possibly 920C webcam, which is meant to deliver fairly good sound and very good pictures. Well, we'll find out during the course of this today. What we're doing today is looking at an old favourite, the Visconti Homo Sapiens. We've been asked by quite a number of people to give some idea about how the nibs come out, the different nib sizes. And for today, we've actually got a complete set of all the Homo Sapiens. So we've got extra fine, fine, medium, broad, double broad, and the 1.3 star. And what I'm going to do is write in my impeccable hand a few words and squiggles with each so you can get some idea how the different nibs work out on the page. So without any more ado, I shall move our super new webcam to its super new webcam stand and we'll see how we get on. Right, here we are. I don't know what the collective noun is for a group of Homo sapiens. I suppose it should be something like an eruption or a flow or something like that. I think flow is probably better given their characteristics when writing. They are pretty wet pens. So, right, I've promised you one of each of the nibs and that's what we've got. And we're going to start with the finest. So here is the extra fine. And I'm going to let you have a look at the nibs, a nice close-up look at the nibs as well. Here we go, bingo. You can see that's extra fine. You can see the tipping there, and a tidy looking nib. There we go. Now, I've got to warn you that all I'm going to be doing is dipping these because someone one day will want to buy them, I hope, and they might not be happy to have had them filled. So they might take a bit of a go to get going, so I'm just going to, here we are. So here's the extra fine. So Visconti extra fine Homo Sapiens. It is very, very fine, as I'm sure you can see. And I've got to say, for an extra fine nib, it is very pleasantly smooth. Not bad at all. You generally find out that the thinner the nib, the scratchier they feel. I've got to say that might be in some part due to this excellent Rhodia paper that I'm using as well. But a very pleasant experience, that. Now, moving on. The next bit of the eruption, or the next stage of the flow. And this is the fine nib. Again, it's a very good looking nib, so I think it's probably worth having a look at it. Here we are. Let's see if we can persuade it to focus. Yes, there we go. And you see, I tell you no lies. This is a fine nib. Because it says F. There we are. And we'll give it a go here. And we will say Visconti fine nib. Now that's interesting actually. Doesn't appear to be a huge amount of difference here. But as you'll have noticed there does seem to be a little bit of flex. Or possibly softness. Now as I do the S's there, it does appear to be actually broader. So let's just write Visconti again. Yeah, okay, so definitely finer. Sorry, definitely a fine nib, probably, yes, a little bit broader than the extra fine, but both of them giving a fairly fine, but I've got to say quite pleasant to use, and the line is quite a strong line actually. Now this one's different. This is my pen, and so we're going to see how that does. This one gets used a great deal. It has been filled properly, and its characteristics will of course be slightly different because it's not simply been dipped. But the nib is without doubt wet. Lays down a lot of ink, an awful lot of ink. Although this is a Homo Sapiens, Visconti seem to be moving over to using the 23 carat palladium nib on most of their pens now. So what you're watching here will probably replicate itself elsewhere. It's a nice nib. But as you can tell from my handwriting, it's not terribly good. I've got to say I find this nib an utter pleasure to use, but it doesn't help my legibility a great deal. I find I need something with a bit more, I don't know about tooth, but certainly feedback to keep my writing at a reasonable speed and looking good. Oh, I've forgotten to do the cross lines and the S's, so we'll do those as well because it's important to be consistent. So there we go. And as you'll see, wet. I do love it. Great pen. Okay, what we've got here, moving on, is a broad nib. And we could well be interrupted in a moment, but we'll cope with that absolutely fine. So, this is the broad. Now, looking at it, whoop, hang on, where's my bit of paper? Here we go. Here we are. We're going to focus. Yes. There we go. Set a bit deeper actually, isn't it? So you can just see the B there. And of course there's dabs of ink on this one. There we go. Nice wadger tipping there. Biggish nib. And it looks like it's going to give a fairly broad line, so let's just have a look. Oh dear, can't spell nib, that's hopeless. Now, this is taking a minute to work in, I think. Let's try again. Wow, well, a big difference there, obviously, between the opposite diagonals. Not exactly italic, but not a million miles away. Nice and broad. I think this really needs to be worked in a little more before it's going to give a nice consistent line. There we go, that's better. That's better. Again, a little bit of softness to it. And a great deal of wetness. Moving on. Visconti also do a double broad. There we go, we'll have a look at that. Not a substantial nib, no doubt about it. I'm going to give this one a bit of a start elsewhere actually. Oh, there we go, that seems to be going quite well. Again, this one would need a bit of working in, and I suspect would benefit from actually having them filled properly. So it's hard to make these tests fair, really, isn't it? Again, soft as anything. a lovely nib. Now, the final nib is this chap, which is the 1.3mm stub. Now, quite a lot of people have struggled with this nib, and I've got to say it took me a while before I could use it with ease, and I'm not totally convinced that's going to work today. There we go, as we see. Again, nice looking nib. We hope it's going to do the job. So, here we are. Stick plenty of ink on it because it's going to need it. So, well, this is again soft, broad, laying down a very, very good line. And I must admit, when I looked at the double broad, I did wonder, well, why did they bother with the stub? Isn't that broad enough? However, as you can see, there is every point in it because it does give a very different line and a very satisfactory line. So, there we have it. A flowing eruption of Homo sapiens. Show you a bit of a close-up of what the writing tests came out as. So here we go. This is it. You can see, I hope, fairly clearly the distinction between the various widths of nibs and possibly the style of writing. The Dreamtouch nib is actually a very nice one, and I can strongly recommend it. As I hope you've seen, all of them lay down a different line. All of them, obviously not the extra fine and the fine, but I mean they are pretty wet nibs. I've got no doubt that when filled, the fine and extra fine would actually give a rather better line than they were given for me. But great nibs. Hope you've enjoyed this. See you next time. Cheerio. Hello, this is John Hall. The webcam slipped. Right, we'll stop that.